Breaking news. Breaking news. It was a relationship that I didn't really understand outside of the economics. And that's ESPN Bet and Penn Gaming just announced that ESPN Bet will be no more, starting December 1st. And this was just a strange relationship coming from a fan point of view, where it was just like
Why?
that, because that to me
That
was
was
a place.
Don't forget how this started. Do you remember how it started? So they had a relationship. They got rid of Barstool. They got rid of a company, and they decided to partner with ESPN to create what they thought would be a competitor to our partners, DraftKings, and to DraftKings competitors. They were trying to gain market share in an industry that has proven to have, there's two and then everybody else. And everybody else is just crushed. And so the question is, where can we be? And what ESPN Bet was supposed to be, they were supposed to gain enough market share to be a solid third with a way to possibly join the top two in the top tier. And it was a 10-year deal, but they knew going in. Don't forget what was announced when ESPN Bet was formed is, hey, we're going to try this, but these guys are so hard to compete against that if we can't get it done in 3 years, then we have the right to end it. So what year are they in? Because I assume what happened is ESPN Bet
Two.
So they didn't even make it 3 because I think all they realized is they couldn't compete with DK.
Yeah, but the problem is they misread the market completely. They saw ESPN brand and ESPN saw gambling, and each of them wanted each other. But the problem there is they didn't take into account the viewers and the fans and why those people are going to ESPN. They're going to ESPN to watch games. They're going to ESPN for analysis. They're going to ESPN for reporting. They're not going to ESPN for gambling. And I think that was the problem in this relationship and misreading the market, is that gamblers go to gambling places. They're not going to ESPN for their gambling or for their gambling information. You're not sitting there watching, First Take because you want to, you want lines and you want odds. You're going there to watch the debate. You're going there to disagree with what Stephen A. Smith is. You're not watching these pregame shows for that. You're watching it for sort of the reporting on the game and the injury analysis. But I don't think those relationships, I don't think those can be intertwined. Like, I don't think they can be together. I don't think that they were the right people to deliver this to fans, and that's why they weren't able to, to gain anything in the market.
So just to be clear, because we're going to have a pretty serious disagreement about this concept, what you are saying is that the reason ESPN Bet failed is that the programming on ESPN was not meant to aid and abet ESPN Bet in succeeding. Did I hear your theory?
That's a simple way of saying it, sure.
Okay. Do you agree that we're on right now the DraftKings network? That's where this show is. And DraftKings is a sponsor of ours. Do you think that DraftKings is successful as a company because people go to DraftKings network to get gambling information in order to use that platform, DraftKings, for gambling?
No, I don't.
So neither do I. So let me give you my theory. My theory is that anytime, and the reason why the government gets involved in antitrust situations where there's not enough competitors in a marketplace. Do you remember Sirius and XM? Great example. There was Sirius, there was XM, there was nobody else. People tried, hey, let's see if we can get some satellite radio going. There were little bits and boops done. Sirius and XM ended up merging. Why? Because their view was that together we might as well take the entire market versus continuing to spend money to compete against each other because it's not giving us the right bang for the buck. The first thing that had to be established is there wasn't going to be anyone that could even approach what Sirius and XM were doing. Right now, the gambling sector, it is in its infancy. DraftKings and FanDuel have made it so they are the predominant players in the market, but it is not a fait accompli that they'll always be. So therefore, there is a incentive for companies to start, whether it's BetMGM, whether it's ESPN Bet. There is incentive to try, just like Enterprise with Avis and Hertz. There's always the top and then companies that try to get a niche. They try to find a way in to that market share. Totally normal, totally expected. The difference is, to me, that in the world of gambling, what DraftKings does, the way they work with the leagues, the way they have established themselves with their one main competitor has made it so there is no room for anything other than possible acquisition targets, the way Avis and Hertz started buying up the rental car companies below them. And what ESPN realized is that's not where we're headed. Penn Entertainment, that's not where we're headed. So to them, it is financially makes more sense to stop throwing money away at something that was not going to ever be profitable nor acquired, and they just are going to disappear. But Coco, what's next? ESPN, you can bet your ass. They're doing a deal with one of the two top companies in gambling right now.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to do the same deal that they just did. I don't believe that it's going to be their own sports book. I don't think it's going to be another.
100% not.
Yeah, it's not. It's going to be a brand partnership. Yeah,
100%.
A brand partnership. But what you just said is the same exact thing that I just said. The first thing that I said was that ESPN. I understood why ESPN and Penn would try and do this because ESPN, the brand name, and Penn trying to get that brand name. But it's like trying to put a Payless shoes on Rodeo Drive. It wasn't going to happen. Those people out there in Beverly Hills, they're not going to be shopping at Payless shoes. It didn't make sense for them to do this. I understand why they thought it would make sense, but they really, really, really misread what fans want out of ESPN, and it wasn't a sports book. They wanted more sports, more coverage of the sports, better analysis of the sports, better coverage of these sports. I don't think they wanted to go there to see, gambling, because they can get gambling where they need to get gambling, right? They can get it on their phones.
Jimmy Pitaro had an interesting statement I'm seeing right now. He said, together, ESPN and Penn created a truly unique offering with unparalleled integrations across our various media assets. I don't think there was anything unique about it, but I digress. ESPN drove over 2.9 million new users into the Penn ecosystem. Obviously wasn't even close to what was projected, with a strong uptick in first-time bettors this fall. Still not what was projected or needed. And then he ended it with, we appreciate the collaboration we had with Penn and are now pursuing other media and marketing opportunities within this space. So there it is. That's obviously what they have to do for Disney. They can't let this segment. It's like podcasts. It's like shows or leagues not taking money from this industry. You have to take money from it if you're going to truly be competitive on the revenue side.